All right, we're going to get this started. Good morning to those of you that are joining us live today. There may still be a few folks that are coming on as we get going, but I wanted to respect your time and the time of our presenters today and get going with this webinar. This is a really important and special webinar. We're really pleased to be able to present this um, and I'll get going here. So this is going to be our webinar on managing stress, supporting mental health for veteran farms and ranches. We've got some guest presenters here joining us from Washington State University and also our project team that I'll introduce here in a minute. And I just wanted to recognize the partners that went into this webinar and our other projects. We have University of Idaho Extension, Harvest Heroes. This is one of our veterans outreach and education programs, the Farmer Veteran Coalition of Idaho chapter, and the Western Extension Risk Management Education Center. So just a few quick tips for webinar success today. Typically, you will have the best experience with your sound, with your video, with everything. If you are closing other programs that are running on your computer, if you're having problems with sound, you can figure out a little bit of thing. You could do some troubleshooting up in that audio button on Zoom. And if it gets really bad, you can always mute your computer and call in on the number in the webinar invitation and hear the sound that way. So we do not see you or hear you today when you're a webinar participant, but you can type in questions into the chat or into the Q&A, and we will be monitoring that and responding in real time. And then if we need to pause and answer questions, we will do that too. Just a reminder that we are recording this webinar, and so the recording will be posted online following the presentation. And if you registered for this, you will be sent the link to it, and it will also be available out in the general domain. So I wanted to welcome you all and just a little background about this project and why we're doing these webinars. So University of Idaho and the Farmer Veteran Coalition of Idaho chapter are teamed up and partners on this project, and we are both committed to improving the economic opportunities as well as the quality of life for military veterans who are choosing agriculture as their next mission, whether as a career, whether as a business, a way of life, or just simply a hobby. This webinar is part of a project of University of Idaho Extension and the Farmer Veteran Coalition of Idaho chapter aimed at reducing risk for military veterans engaged in agriculture. And so we're looking at the financial, the physical, the economic, the production risks, and the legal risks that all surround agriculture. And this webinar is one way that we are addressing this. So it's funded through a Western Extension Risk Management Education Center grant. And over this next year, we'll be doing this through September of 2025. We will be delivering multifaceted production, marketing, financial, legal, and human risk management education to new and beginning and existing veteran farmers and ranchers across the state. So we're doing this through a number of different ways. We're doing monthly webinars and podcasts, and we're also hosting regional in-person workshops and tours around the state. And we just completed our Treasure Valley workshop in November and really had a wonderful time, and we're looking forward to the next ones. So our team, I'm Ariel Agenbrod, Area Extension Educator. I am located in Boise, but I work regionally in community food systems and small farms. And I also work statewide in our programs for serving veterans, in farmers market work, in farm to school, and on farm food safety. And that's me excitedly pulling radishes out of the ground at our veterans teaching farm that we had in Nampa for a few years. And then joining me and really the driving force behind a lot of what we are doing here is Connie May, who is retired Air Force. She's our program coordinator. She, with University of Idaho Extension, she has a background in nutrition and in horticulture, as well as many other skills and talents. And she is currently the president-elect of the Idaho Farmer Veteran Coalition chapter. So really grateful to have Connie here. You may be seeing and hearing from her in other aspects of this project. She is also our podcast host. So if you've listened to our podcast, you've heard her talking about some great stories. So our webinars and podcasts, this webinar is one of 10 planned webinars. I think we're at like 5 or 6 now, Connie, right? covering all the different topics surrounding risk and really trying to introduce our veteran audiences to resources and organizations that can be of assistance to them. And then we also have our Idaho Harvest Heroes podcast, which is really our storytelling part of this whole project. We are interviewing veterans around the state related to these risk management topics and then posting these webinars. And they're all about 20 minutes or less. And they're just, I really have enjoyed listening to them and being part of this project. And then our regional workshops and tours. These are 2-day intensive workshops, again, focused on risk management, but really the deeper purpose is to bring veterans together who are interested in agriculture and give them opportunities to network, to make connection, and to learn some new skills maybe. So the tours visit veteran farms in each area, as well as, if we can, University of Idaho research farms, any processing facilities, other farms in the area that really represent the possibilities in that region of the state. And because of the grant, we are able to offer these workshops free of charge, including meals and tours. And so this photograph up here is from our most recent one in November. And we have March 14th and 15th planned for Pocatello and April 25th through 26th planned for Sandpoint. And this QR code here will take you to the Eventbrite page for all of the workshops. These two aren't up yet, but they will be in the next week or so. And we'll also include those links in the follow-up to this webinar. So we hope that wherever you are in the state, you may be able to join us for one of those. All right, so I don't want to keep our guest presenters waiting too much longer. We do have a few goals for today. After participating in this webinar, our hope is that you will learn to better recognize the symptoms of stress, increase your knowledge of the effect of stress on your mental and physical health, and learn about resources that can assist veterans and others in agriculture address stress and support mental health. And I'm sure they're going to bring a whole lot of other bits of information to this topic as well. And I wanted to remind you that following today's webinar, there will be a very quick 2-minute survey that pops up. That's very important for us to document to our funders that we are trying to reach the goals of this project. So now to introduce our guest presenters, we're very excited to have them with us. We have Deb Eidsness, who's the Farm Stress and AgrAbility Co-Coordinator for WSU Extension. That's the Cougars, Washington State, right across the border from University of Idaho. And when I asked Deb for a quick bio, she sent me this lovely description. So I have been involved in agriculture all of my life, actively involved with 4-H and FFA, and still I'm a 4-H leader and FFA booster. Thank you, Deb. My college fund was a string of dairy heifers. That money ran out after 2 years with an associate degree in animal health technology. So she joined the Army 1975 through 1978 in order to take advantage of the GI Bill. She was in the European Theater, West Germany, 3rd Army Combat Forward Support, 122nd Maintenance Battalion as a repair parts specialist. Most of the time she was deployed to the Czech-Poland borders and Fulda Gap to support the NATO units guarding borders held by the Warsaw Pact Soviet units. I bet you have some adventures and some stories to tell there, Deb. She returned home in 1981 and went back to managing the family dairy. Sold out in 1991, transitioned to beef, cow, and calf pairs, quarter horses, and custom hay service. She also worked as an agricultural consultant for almost 40 years. That is a life. Now you are part-time with WSU and the Farm Stress Program, semi-retired. Doesn't sound very retired with 5 acres, 3 to 6 steers a year, 5 grandkids, and needing a rocking chair. It sounds like it. We're really glad to have you here, Deb. And then joining us also is Maddy Lee Vanderkooy, who's the Farm Stress and AgrAbility Co-Coordinator for WSU Extension. Maddy Lee is part of a 3rd-generation dairy farming family in Washington State. She grew up riding horses and helping on the farm, where she quickly learned how much work goes into the food we often take for granted at the grocery store. Maddy attended Washington State University, earning a degree in psychology and human development. This education allowed her to connect her passion for mental health with her commitment to farming advocacy as the Western Regional Ag Stress Assistance Program Coordinator, or RASAP. Currently, she is in the final stages of earning her master's degree in counseling, very cool, and is excited about the opportunities to support people in agriculture further. So thank you for that introduction to who you both are and all the wealth of experience and knowledge you bring to this project. I think we've got a great presentation ahead of us. So I'm going to stop my screen sharing, let you bring up your presentation, and then the rest of our time is yours, Deb and Maddy.
Thanks.
Yeah, thank you. Let me get my screen shared here.
And just a reminder to everyone that you can use the Q&A or the chat. I think the Q&A only is seen by myself and the other panelists, and the chat is seen by everybody. All right, that looks great.
Perfect.
You got to run the slides, right, Maddy?
Yep, I got it.
Okie doke. We're calling this the mental health resources for the veterans, but this is just a very poignant little Winnie the Pooh thing. And it says, it occurred to Pooh and Piglet that they hadn't heard from Eeyore for several days. So they put on their hats and coats, trotted across the snow to Eeyore's house. Inside the house was Eeyore. Hello, Eeyore, said Pooh. Hello, Piglet. And he was looking pretty glum. He said, we just thought we'd check on you, said Piglet. We hadn't heard from you for a long time. Wanted to know if you were okay. Eeyore was silent for a moment. Am I okay? Well, I don't know. To be honest, are any of us really okay? That's what I asked myself. All I can tell you, Pooh and Piglet, is that right now I feel really, really rather sad and alone and not much fun to be around, which is why I haven't bothered you, because you wouldn't want to waste your time being around somebody that's sad and not much fun to be around. Pooh looked at Piglet, Piglet looked at Pooh, and they both sat down, one on either side of Eeyore's house. Eeyore said, what are you doing? He says, we're sitting here with you because you're our friend, and true friends don't care if someone is feeling sad or alone or not too much not too much fun to be around. True friends are there for you anyway. So we're here. Oh. And the three of them sat there in silence while Pooh and Piglet said nothing at all. Somehow, almost imperceptibly, Eeyore started to feel a tiny little bit better, just because Pooh and Piglet were there. Nor more, no less. So that kind of ties into our next slide. That's what does it mean to be the other person? That, you Piglet and Pooh. Piglet and Pooh were the other people. So think, y'all don't have to, write it down in the chat or anything, but think of a time in your life when you felt like you helped people make connections and you served as the switchboard. And I'm thinking about a time when I got called out to do an AgrAbility call, and it was a horseshoer and his wife. They also had 25 horses. They bred quarter horses. And the worst thing could happen to a horseshoer. He got his foot broken really, really bad. Well, then, being a tough old farmer here he was, he just laced up the boot and kept doing it as long as he could. But then that affected his hip and his knee on that same side. So when I went out there, I was just going to help Jeff and Alicia get their, try to figure out how to mitigate the pain and help them continue doing what they were going to do. And well, that built into the other problems that happen when you're really hurt. So I connected them in several different ways, financially, mentally, and also just company. So that's just my story. So all of you can think of something that you've thought, but that's what it is. The other person, what did you do? Next, Maddy. So this is from the COMET program, which is available nationwide. I think University of Colorado designed it, if I'm not mistaken. So anyways, it's called Be the Other Person, Conversational Gravity. Everybody has, that spectrum right there. There's wellness on one hand and crisis on the other. And so if you can be that person in that dot right there before the people get into a crisis situation, go ahead and divert that whatever way you can. Do the next one, Maddy. So there's, if something doesn't change that trajectory, you can tell when somebody is starting to go into a crisis. And usually it's like mental health crisis hotlines, law enforcement, when they're there. I don't even want them to get there. I don't want to be the cowboy swinging a rope and pulling somebody off of a cliff. So I would like to change that trajectory with any way that I can. And farmers, as we well know, we're pretty independent. We're really, really very willing to help anybody, but very rarely do we ever ask for help. And so one way that I've been able to reach people is they're a farmer, and I have just noticed that, things just aren't right. Place used to look pretty good. All of their equipment was parked nicely in the barns and everything. And that wasn't the normal. And it does help if you can recognize normal with your friends. So, but we don't know everybody. So just like Piglet and Pooh, drop by and ask if you can, if they're all right, how's things going? Talk like that. But what I find with farmers is I usually make up a story that I need help with something, because that empowers the farmer. And I'm that kind of person. It's like, I'm not going to ask for it. But if somebody empowers me, I love giving. And if somebody asks me a question, it could be anything really, real complex. It's just like, gosh, on part of my tractor, on this particular implement, it's not working quite right. I know you've got one. Could you give me your opinion on it? Could you help me? And just getting them out. Usually if we can get our hands on something in agriculture, that's a really good diversion. All of a sudden, they're not just going down this line that's heading for the cliff. And it's very, very real common for agriculture folks and veterans to, it doesn't matter what it is, but it's, pretty soon they're just shaking it off, getting it done, but they're headed for the crisis side. Maddy, could you change the slides? So the social connectedness, it is so important, and even ties into that little Winnie the Pooh story. Not being alone is really, really, really important. And we as agriculture folks, we are alone a lot of the time. A lot of times we're the single farmers. We're out there working and we spend most of our time alone. So I talk to a lot of animals. So, I mean, those are my companions. But being alone, these cows, they figured it out. They don't want to be alone. So, it's helpful to have a herd. So this is another way that we can help folks. Invite them to a range meeting, or invite them to stop by. Let's go in for coffee in the morning or something. Get people out there. Let them know you care, that you're not alone. So because a lot of times they'll say, no, I don't want to go anywhere. Okay, you just think of a reason to hang out with them. So go ahead, next. Okay, this is a kind of a complex slide, but not really. So all of the stuff up in the clouds there, the weather, politics, prices on things, relationships, transitional farm, legacy farming, it's finances, those all get in. One that they don't have in there is pain. And pain is what stresses me. One of the things that builds into, I'm frustrated, so I'm not real pleasant because I can't do my work. And then that goes into perhaps financial, if you're not able to work. And then that usually gets into the relationships, because I don't know how many of you are married, but holy criminy, it's well, and even if you're not, if you're a farmer, you know what I'm talking about, relationships with with your workers, relationship in your family, that gets pretty bad. So the thing is before that change that trajectory, we can kind of latch on to something. But farmers, the things that will protect farmers, is the hard work, your faith, yeah, the tenacity of most of us. That's I love my land, your own identity, because you identify as a farmer. That's really, really important. When we sold the milk cows, it was terrible. It was like I lost my identity. And and resilience, yeah, sometimes we just have to get up. You shake it off. I can do it. I can do it. Farmers are very resilient. So, but there's a lot of factors that we can't control. So, yeah, I don't have to. I'm probably preaching to the choir with the group, but there is help out there. Yes, yeah. So, in order to relieve some of this stuff, this is when you think of the cavemans and our immigrant, when a lot of our families came to the United States, we we're we're pretty good at short-term solutions like stressors, like I was thinking of it. Like I say, I keep going back to myself. Okay, pain. There's acute pain and there is chronic pain. And we can all deal with acute pain. We've all had broken bones. If you're a farmer, you've all hurt yourself pretty good. But when those chronic stressors, and it could be being in a bad relationship, it could be success, it's something to do with succession farming. And Maddy can attest to this. You've got a big family, and so it's trying to figure out who's going to keep the farm are it's really very stressful. Maddy, I really liked your story. Could you tell your story?
About the succession planning.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh yeah. So like they mentioned in the beginning, I come from a third generation dairy farm. My dad is the oldest of 12 siblings. So the succession planning was a long process before we came to a conclusion about my dad taking over the family farm with his brother, and then making it fair for everyone, but also recognizing that my dad and my uncle have been working on the farm their whole lives consistently. And then our accountant is the person who got us going. Because another thing is, as my grandpa got older, it was harder for him to let go of the farm. So being able to have a good accountant to kind of walk us through the process and also walk my grandpa through the process of how he was going to transition from being a full-time farmer to a retired grandpa and enjoying the rest of his life. Um, and so that was it was stressful, but having a plan in place, I see how it mitigated a lot of that stress, whereas a lot of people 9 times out of 10 don't have a plan and it ends up in this place of crisis. So yeah, that's my story. So you talk about acute versus chronic stress. We were able to prevent a lot of that stress by having good people in place to help us along the way to prevent it from going to a state of like chronic stress where my dad didn't want to farm anymore or jeopardize the family business. So yeah, that's our story.
Thank you. Thank you, Maddy, for sharing that. Can you give us the next one, honey?
Mhm.
Okay, since this is we've got two different, well, we've got more than that, but anyway, several different ones. I'm part of that Washington state program, and I think most states are probably getting into being that way. And also, so I'm just giving you this to give you an example of what we can do. And Deb and Cheryl, or Deb and Debbie, me and Debbie are part-time Yeah, get them all mixed up. Anyways, and Cheryl, she's on the east side of the state, and she is full-time. And so it takes a bit to order, to cover all of these states and whatnot, but we sure try. And so we do a lot of fairs and whatnot. And it's interesting at the fairs when you're talking about the grandpas and the dads, the adults, they don't really cotton up to talking about any of this stress because they're tough. Shake it off. We always doing it. My key I found is with the kids, because when I give the kids information about this, they're used to talking about this. It used to be really taboo to talk about stress or to even admit that you were stressed. And yeah, we've lost suicide is very, I forget the statistics, Maddy, but it's in agriculture and is very, very high. I think we're one of the first or second ones. And then pile that on top of being a veteran. Yeah, so yeah, you got a double hazard there. But we're getting to the point where we have tools that can help you. Physically, financial, and emotionally. So I'm going to go over our program and because quite a few other states are kind of wanting to model that. So go ahead and poke on there. And this is just how we divided this up. The population's really high in the west side of the states, where Cheryl, she's got a lot of distance, but a lot of farmers. And that's, I don't know the population density map there, but believe me, a lot of these farmers are working on their own. And that's part of being a farmer, I think, is we're able to work alone, but we need people. We need people to notice if something's going haywire. And so having somebody that you trust, or you have a place, somebody you can talk to, not be alone, is really important. Go ahead, next one, man. So this is our one that we use on for our state. These are resources for folks in our state. The counseling programs and the financial economists, those are really big tools that can help you, but that's for our state. But I think that most of the states are now getting people on board, like you said, Ariel. I think you said you're building a team. One thing that I want to talk about, and these ones on the other side are all national. Most of them are. Anyways, I want you guys to notice, everybody to notice this National AgrAbility Toolbox. That's really a great tool. And if you go onto that website, one thing that, like I say, that causes me stress is pain. And that's how I got involved with this stuff, because Skagit County came up and gave me some ideas of some simple stuff. My neck is really bad. I couldn't see the implement behind my tractor. I couldn't run my 3-point. Something as simple as a swivel seat to put on my tractor, or even a swivel seat cushion, made a lot of difference in that. So I want everybody to take note of this. Like I say, that you guys don't have one over there, but hopefully that Ariel just put up, if you guys have that National AgrAbility Toolbox link, that is going to be a really good tool for you guys, for everybody. So, and how about the next one, Maddy? So this is our economist, John Paul. He's also a farmer. And so he has really, really helped a lot of folks with the succession planning, but also just getting their ducks in a row, or for somebody that's looking to get into the farming business, be it renting some ground for somebody, or perhaps ideas on what is feasible to do with your farm. Having somebody talk to you, and somebody that talks agriculture, is so important. So that John, we have him free of service in our state. And then the next slide. And this, we've got a private grant for Washington, and she's licensed in Washington and Idaho. I'm not sure. Maddy, do you know that if anybody out of state can do that, or is it just in state, isn't it?
Our funding through our donor is just through Washington State, but I know a lot of other states have been modeling this similar program, so we're happy
So
to
that's what,
discuss.
yeah, and we've got, like I say, she's also Toxag. She's from Germany, but she was off of a farm, so she's really a good resource. What do we got next? That's yours.
Yes, it is.
Over.
Before, thanks, Deb. Before we get started, Jonathan, I don't know if you could check the chat. I saw a few messages going on in there. I just want to make sure we're not missing anything.
I've
Nope,
just
I don't
been
believe.
posting.
Perfect. Okay, good deal. Well, hi everyone. Like I introduced myself before, my name is Maddy Vanderkooy, and I run the Western Region Ag Stress Assistance Partnership program here through the Skagit County Extension Office. So before we get started, since we're about halfway through the presentation, I want to do a little exercise. And people in the office can attest that I do box breathing, or I tell people to do box breathing all the time. So it helps just a few things. There are tons of different ways to incorporate breath in your exercise. And a lot of people think it's silly because it's something so simple, but it really works. Take it from me. I come from a competitive sport background, and incorporating breath when you're in those kind of higher intense situations, if you're frustrated, it really helps kind of increase your focus. It lowers your blood pressure, lowers your heart rate, helps you kind of go into this more relaxing state. So we're going to focus on box breathing, which is my favorite one. And it's super easy. We'll do 3 rounds of it. You can close your eyes. We can't see you. You can get comfortable however you want. But basically what we're going to do is we're going to let all the air out of our lungs. Then we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, and then hold for another 4 seconds. And then we're going to repeat that process. So if everybody's ready, we'll get started. So everybody go ahead and just let out all the air in your lungs. You can start fresh. So an exhale. Okay, now we're going to breathe in for 4 seconds. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and then hold it. 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out. 2, 3, 4, and then hold. 2, 3, 4, and then breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and then hold. 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out. 2, 3, 4, and then hold. 2, 3, 4, and then last time, breathe in. 2, 3, 4, and then hold. 2, 3, 4, and then breathe out. 2, 3, 4, and then hold. 2, 3, 4. And then a lot of times I'll shake it out afterwards too. And then so you can do that. The beauty of this is that you can do it and nobody needs to know you're doing it. So a lot of times if I'm in the office and I need to just focus up on something, I'll practice box breathing. Or if you're out on the farm, let's say you're having a hard time hooking up your implement, you're getting frustrated, I'll take a break or and just kind of practice this breathing to get myself focused and kind of grounded again. So I really recommend it. It's a great exercise. And now that we're all focused and our blood pressure is regulated, we will move on. So this is some background on me. Those are my kids. Those pictures on the top right corner, that's Reggie and Juicy. So I am the RASIP coordinator. I manage the quarterly newsletter, which if you aren't familiar with it, it's a great resource. We do a lot of overview of programs in it every quarter, some program highlights, and also some good mental health tips for people in our region. So I also help lead our internal partners group. So in our region, which Idaho is included, it's 13 states and 4 U.S. territories. So I help lead those. Each land grant university in the state has a partner with us. So I help manage those. And then this is Don McMorrin. That's his contact info. He is a great resource for anything RASIP related. So he's the grant principal investigator. So there's his contact information if you want to ever contact him about questions or partnership opportunities or funding or anything in between. So he's a great resource for people. And then a quick program overview. So RASIP works with farmers, ranchers, and agricultural professionals to share resources about stress and mental health, conduct trainings, and reduce farm stress in agricultural communities. So Deb talked about comet training in her presentation. That is one of our approved trainings that we do. We travel all over the region to do those. So if you're interested, you can get a hold of either Deb or I, and we can make that happen. But those are just some of the examples of what we do in the RASIP program. And then, like I said, 13 states, 4 U.S. territories. So that's our region. We also cover American Samoa, Guam, Micronesia, and the Northern Mariana Islands. Another really cool resource. So if you haven't been on our website, it's farmstress.us. We have an interactive service map. So this map is up on our website, and you can type in your zip code to where you are living or farming, and it'll bring up resources within a certain mile radius for anything related to farming. So it could be financial, mental health, if you need social services, anything in between. It's a really great resource, and Idaho is very, very well covered in that. So you go on there, you type in, I'm from Coeur d'Alene area, within a 25-mile radius, it'll bring up different like CSAs, farmers markets, connections, and stuff like that. So that's just some of the work that we do, is providing that clearinghouse of resources. And then additional services that we offer, the Farm Aid Hotline. They're a resource hotline and a crisis hotline as well. So let's say you're having issues with, we're not having it over here, but drought. We've got a lot of rain this year, but in a lot of other areas of the world, drought's a big challenge that farmers face. So you can call into the Farm Aid Hotline. They can get you connected up with resources, whether that be funding or climate-based practice to change up your farming practice to adapt to the climate. And they also have their own resource network as well. And then our program, which is the farmstress.us program, we have a clearinghouse with resources, and we also have mini grants, which I'll get into a little bit later. And those can be used for professional development, translate, outreach, and a lot more. We've gotten some pretty creative applications in the past. And then also something new is that it's not something new, but they're doing hotlines in each state, hopefully. So the AgriSafe network is it's a crisis hotline. They're 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They specialize in farm crisis, and farmers can call in, get the help that they need. They also have health and safety webinars and then professional development opportunities. Currently, we're doing a campaign with AgriSafe. They just launched 5 hotline call centers in some of the states. Idaho was not listed as one of those, but we just piloted one in Washington State. But look for further opportunities for that. But AgriSafe and Farm Aid, they're both great resources. I really highly encourage you to search them on the internet and find their website, because there's so many great resources from both of them. And then some partner relationships and roles. So really quick, we partner with quite a range of organizations. So Rocky Mountain Farmers Union down in like the Colorado, New Mexico area, Farm Aid, AgriSafe, National AgrAbility, and then WSU, those land grant universities that partner with us, and each of them, like University of Idaho. So we're kind of the umbrella that covers, RASIP's the umbrella that helps kind of fund and partner with people like University of Idaho to do the good work that they're doing in their state. So that's just kind of what our role is in helping with the mental health crisis. And then so part of the awesome work that we do is we get to work with awesome partners. So Montana State University, Michelle Grocky Dewey. She is an associate professor and department head, and she specializes in health and wellness and community health, and she's our research lead. So back in, I believe it was 2022, we did some baseline data collection of farmers and farm workers to measure a perceived stress scale, which will tell you if generally farmers are at a low stress, medium stress, or high stress. And what we found is the majority of people were saying that they had a medium to high level of stress, which at medium, we recommend getting some help. So that was really good data collected. And then we also analyzed that. So our goal was to find top stressors, stress management topics of interest, and information dissemination strategies of interest. And we also assess different based on demographic variables. So gender, age, geographic area, all those kind of demographic information. And that can all be found on our website, farmstress.us, and it's under baseline data. We did find some really interesting data, though, between ag producers and ag workers. So ag producers being like your owners, and your kind of more larger scale commodity producers, and then ag workers being the people who are working on the farm, overseeing, daily operations and working, boots on the ground. So ag producers, we noted that through our data that was collected, workload was one of the number one stressor that they reported, followed by lack of time, financial worries, high production costs, lack of family work balance, and then legislative issues related to agriculture. And then on the ag worker side of things, working in extreme temperatures, long working hours, lack of time, low wages, financial worries, and lack of work-family balance. So taking that data, now we're analyzing it and implementing programs to help mitigate this stress. So part of on the ag worker side of things, Esme, our partner in UC Davis, Esme Manduano, she is our California AgrAbility Program Manager, and she also is the network lead for RASIP. So she works down in California on the ag worker side of things, and she does a lot of great networking work for migrant workers in the Latinx community. And whether this be she goes out and plays soccer with them and educates them on heat-related illness, or stretching and making sure that they're protecting themselves and limiting risk when they're on the farm. She does a really great job and does some really great work down in California with our Latinx community. She also does RASIP Network quarterly meetings, so I really encourage people to take a note of this. We just had one recently, so we're working on scheduling our next one. But we go over a lot of really good information in our network quarterly meetings. So we highlight RASIP contracted collaborator efforts. It is open to the public and potential collaborators, and it's a really great space. Esme does a great job doing breakout groups, so you can network with other farms in our region and farmers in our region, and also mental health professionals. So the last one, Dr. Tao Lee from the University of Hawaii, she did a great presentation on her program, Seeds of Well-Being. So it's approach to promoting mental well-being and resilience among farmers. She's got a great website on the University of Hawaii. I'm sure somebody can put it in the chat for Seeds of Well-Being. But it was definitely a great use of time. It's a great investment to pop on those quarterly networking meetings and get to know farmers throughout the region, learn about the unique struggles and also some common ground as well. Okay, and now we're going to get into mini grants. So something we're really proud to offer is mini grant funding through RASIP. It's up to $5,000 in funding, and eligibility is prospective applicants for a mini grant must either base program activity in the Western region, so Idaho is included, and proposed activity must be relevant to farmers or farm workers in the Western region. We touched on it before. This can be used for professional development. So if you want to travel to a conference for mental health or mental health summit to develop yourself professionally, or if you want to get some materials translated into Spanish, we can offer funding to fund that. Or if you have a summit that you want to put on, we can provide some mini grant funding. There's a lot of great, I put the link on the bottom of this slide because there's a lot of really good info and all the instructions. I could go on for hours about mini grant instructions and eligibility and all that stuff, but it's much easier if you take a look at the link. The application deadline is January 1st. And after that, we're gonna really do a quick turnaround and try and get those. They are competitive, so they will go through a evaluation process with an evaluation team, and we will get some boots on the ground and help with mental health crisis. So that's why we put those in place to offer some really concrete resources for people to better their education about mental health and also give them access to resources. So looking forward, RASIP 4, so we're going to continue. So RASIP started back in 2019, and we've been working through, we're on our 4th round of funding now. So our goal was to really establish the network in the first few years, build a resource network, get connected with our other land-grant universities. Now our goal is to continue to grow RASIP throughout the Western region, and this is going to be through inviting new stakeholders, aligning with existing networks, and developing best practices for building state networks. And then we're going to continue to expand our clearinghouse of resources, like I mentioned, in that mapping feature where you can type your zip code in. We're going to continue to add resources to that list. And then we're also going to educate internal and external partners on program activities and how to access resources, and then also provide a range of services and targeted outreach for farmers or people working with farmers to address stressors and behavioral health. And another fun project that we are working on that I believe is the next slide that I will let our awesome intern Jonathan Brown take over is Pizza for Producers, which is something that we've had a lot of fun developing. So I will let Jonathan Brown take it from here because he is our resident pizza expert.
Yes, so Pizza for Producers was created by Dawn McMorrin, which Maddy she discussed earlier. He created it in 2023, and in the fall of 2023, we had our first Pizza for Producer event. And what Pizza for Producers is it's a way to get the farming community together to talk and discuss, and just a fun time to relieve stress for farmers. P4P is a nationwide program event, so you could do this in Idaho or any state in particular. If you look at the pictures here, Johnny Walden, he is a shop teacher here in Washington State. He created this pizza oven for us, which was really nice to have at our second P4P event on October 17th, which saw about 80 participants. We had games for the kids, and I was working the pizza oven, and it was just a really great way to have all the farmers in the community get together, maybe discuss some of their stress, or relieve stress, just to talk together and discuss. So yeah, it's a really great opportunity.
Awesome. Thanks, Jonathan. And Pizza for Producers, so it was designed around, I know when my parents were my age, there was a lot of community activity that was happening. I know in our local community, like people would go to the pancake feed or go to Grange's in the morning and have breakfast, or go to their local church for events or go get coffee. And something that's happening in, I think, post-COVID is we're kind of getting away from that. That building resilience and community and enjoying local food that local producers are growing. So that's another big part of Pizza for Producers, is that we try to use ingredients that are local. So at our last one, we had flour that was grown right here in the Skagit Valley, that was donated by Caring Springs Mill, which is right outside our office door. And then also we tried to get local meats and local cheeses from Samish Bay Cheese, and we just really try to make it a localized event where people can come and enjoy their evening off the farm, get to talk to other farmers that they maybe haven't seen. Because we all know when you get into farming and life, things get busy and you kind of put taking care of yourself and your community maybe on the back burner, because you got to get your potatoes out of the ground or got to deal with the weed issue or something like that. So this is what Pizza for Producers was designed around. You can host an event by clicking on that link. This pizza oven is actually available. We have a drop trailer that we can deliver this. Idaho is included in that region. So we have an intern from Duke University starting in January, and she's going to be really managing this program and taking it over and going on the road. So if anybody attending this has like an event that they want to host, we can make that happen. There's lots of great info on our website. So I really encourage people to take a look at that. And it was a great event. Like, it was well attended. We had about 90 participants at our last one in October, which is more than what we had expected. But people really crave community. So we're really proud of this program, and we're excited to see where it's going to go in the future. Okay, and as we're kind of winding down, I want to close with this quote that I really like. You belong. I come from a school counseling background, so elementary education. So I like to kind of end on a positive feel-good note. So a deep sense of love and belonging is an irreducible need of all people. We are biologically, cognitively, physically, and spiritually wired to love, to be loved, and to belong. When those needs are not met, we don't function as we were meant to be. We break, we fall apart, we numb, we ache, we hurt others, we get sick. So that goes back to that sense of community, feeling that you belong, getting a good network of people around you, which is exactly what the Veterans Coalition is doing. Great work in doing that and bringing people together. And really just checking in on people and showing empathy is a small ripple that's going to make big waves in somebody's life. So, and with that, we're going to do, hold on, maybe if my slide will go forward. There we go. Okay, we're going to do one more breathing exercise. And this one is probably my favorite because it is a good way to release some physical tension. So it's called falling out breath, and I also do this one a lot. And so you're going to take a deep breath, inhale, and you're going to fill your lungs with as much air as possible at the top of your breath. And then you're going to take one more sip of air just when you think you can't take any more, and then exhale with a big sigh. And since you're muted, you can make whatever noise be however loud as you want. So you can hear it, and as you release air from your lungs. So we're going to go ahead and do this once, because you can do it as many times as you want, but it's a great one. So falling out breath, you're going to take a deep inhale. So fill your lungs up with as much air as possible. Okay, now you're going to take one more breath, one more sip of air. And then you're going to exhale forcefully. And that's a great one to practice throughout the day. So yeah. With that, we will open it up for questions. You can have our contact information there, our website, all sorts of good stuff. There's tons of resources on there. Deb and I are really proud of our programs. We feel like they're robust, and there's just good information on there. So with that, Deb and I will open the floor up for any questions.
Wonderful. And while we're waiting for any questions, I just want to say thank you again for sharing your time and your talent with us today, Maddy, Lee, Jonathan, and Deb. We've been putting a lot of the links and the resources that you mentioned in our chat, and also adding them for Idaho, if we have Idaho specific counterpoints to some of the things you mentioned. We do have an Idaho Farm Stress program. But just like we talked about how it's good to have a social network, it's good to have a multi-state network, because there are things we do in Idaho that that we don't do in Washington, things that are happening in Washington that can benefit that we aren't doing in Idaho. And so we really thought it was important to expand our boundaries a little bit and find out who could be also on our multi-state team in terms of helping veterans and farm producers manage their stress. So I'm not seeing any questions coming up, but we are getting some nice comments. Thank you, those of you that attended live. We will send all of those links out in a follow-up after the webinar, so that if you weren't able to catch them all during the presentation, those will be available. And oh, it looks like we might get something. Oh yes, so they're wondering if we could maybe get a screenshot or a printout of the breathing exercises.
Yeah, of course. Yes, I can send that to you, Ariel, and then,
Okay.
Yep, I can do that. No problem.
Yeah, I was wanting those too. So thank you for that question.
Wasn't the four square breathing thing that was originated? I think it's a marine thing, isn't it? It's one of the services, so that's where it was originally lined out to, get your stuff in together when you're in a stressful situation.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Very powerful, and yet seemingly very simple. All right. Well, we really appreciate this. And especially I think it's very timely. I think stress sometimes tends to rise even more around the holiday season. So wishing everybody a safe and happy holiday in whatever ways that you celebrate. And thank you again to our friends from Washington State University for presenting with us today. Great. Well, we'll just stay on for a minute more, but I'll stop the recording of the webinar, and yeah, we'll see you next month.